Hi everyone, welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Kai.
And we're on day 3 of our literature article for this month, which is Wonder. Now, we've already read through the story. We know what happened. We're going to look at a bit more about the author and the themes today and the issues. But let's kind of quickly recap the plot of the story so we know what we're talking about. It's about this boy called Augie who had a facial deformity. His mum kept him home away from bullies, but then they changed their mind and decided to send him to Beecher Prep, a fancy school.
Yeah. So there he meets other students, and they and the teachers react in a strong way to his appearance. Not in a good way, in a strongly negative way. Some students, like Julian, even bully him, saying he has the plague and people could get sick if they're near him.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't seem to have many friends, but he has a few, like Jack and Summer. They support Augie, but later Augie hears Jack making fun of him with Julian. And because of this, Augie feels very alone.
Yeah. So Jack feels bad. He feels ashamed. And he, the next time Julian says something bad, he punches Julian right in the face, which maybe is not the best solution, but it does help Augie to trust Jack again.
Right. So later on in the term, the class goes on a nature camp. Julian doesn't go, so Augie does go, and he has fun there until the last night.
Yeah. On the last night, there are older kids at the camp too, and they attack him and Jack. They don't know how they're going to get out of the situation until Julian's friends save them.
Yeah, big unexpected twist. The cavalry arrive.
Yeah, and it wasn't that these kids hated Augie, it's that they were afraid of Julian, their friend.
Well, luckily, Julian later leaves Beecher Prep and Augie gets an award for his growth, his personal growth.
Yeah. So despite all these tough times, Augie now feels more confident.
So that's the story. What are the themes and the other things about the book we're going to talk about? Let's find out in day 3's article.
Reading.
Wonder. Wonder was written in 2012 by R.J. Palacio. It's a touching book that contains important messages about strength and understanding. Palacio wanted readers to learn what life is like when people don't know how to behave toward you. This is the reason for the interesting way Palacio wrote Wonder. The story is told through the eyes of different characters, including Augie and Jack. This lets the reader see how Augie is affected by bullying and how he shows his feelings to others. It also shows how some characters, like Jack, struggle to respond well to people with deformities. By letting us see how some characters accept and welcome Augie, Palacio offers an important lesson. Don't judge a book by its cover. Augie is kind and a loyal friend to the people who look beyond his appearance. Aside from the way he looks, he is just a regular 10-year-old. But in order for him to have a regular childhood, people need to let him tell his own story.
Okay, so let's start day 3 of the article. We've got a bit about the author first. Wonder was written in 2012 by R.J. Palacio.
And then after she wrote the book, it was turned into a movie.
Yeah, that's right. Also called Wonder. I think it came out 2017.
Yes.
Something about then.
A little more recent. So, as we've discussed, the article is telling us it's a touching book that contains important messages about strength and understanding.
Okay, so what sort of messages have we got? We see Palacio wanted readers to learn what life is like when people don't know how to behave toward you. So the word behave is a verb and it means act in a particular situation, and it does mean in terms of the way you think, but often more specifically the things you do, especially how you behave or how you act towards others.
Yeah.
So are you friendly? Are you trusting? Are you rude or arrogant? Are you kind of shy and distant? What do you do around them? How do you react when they talk? What do you do to make friends with them? What do you do to, how do you change your behavior around different people? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Here's an example sentence. Howard was sent home for behaving badly in class and saying nasty things to the other students. So that's an example of not behaving.
Yeah, definitely. So because Palacio wanted readers to learn these things, the article tells us this is the reason for the interesting way Palacio wrote Wonder.
Okay, so it's all to do with sort of how, because you can write stories in different ways. You can sort of have one main character and follow them. You can use first person, where it's all like, I did this, I went here.
Yeah.
You can use like a novel that's told through letters or diary entries or something like that. There are lots of different ways that you can write and structure a book.
Yeah, so what's the specific interesting way Palacio told this story?
Well, we see the story is told through the eyes of different characters, including Augie and Jack. So this is where we have different points of view from different characters, which some authors do use, and it's often a way of giving a kind of broader view of what's going on. Sometimes readers prefer to stick to just one main character and stay with them. And have a more tight focus. But this is one where we're seeing different people's opinions all the time. In fact, different characters' opinions. A character is a person in a story, a play, a movie, a computer game, and so on. Usually we use the word character for a made-up person rather than like a real person, an actual person from life.
Yeah.
For example, we could ask, who is your favorite character from the Marvel movies?
Yeah.
Do you have one?
I do. I think it's Spider-Man.
Okay.
I've always been a big Spider-Man fan, even before the movies. So from the movies specifically.
From the set of the MCU.
Yeah. I guess Vision.
Okay.
The computer brain.
Cool choice.
Jewel-headed man. What about you?
I mean, I had a lot of fun with Loki, just because he was such a sort of a character with different levels, and even though he was a bad guy, he was a good guy. But when he was a bad guy, he wasn't just big smashy monster bad guy like a lot of the MCU villains. He used kind of clever ways to win, sort of thing, which made him. I always found. I mean, it's a great actor as well, and a good story, and I like the character from mythology as well.
Yeah.
So
very complicated and tricky.
Yeah, putting all of that together makes a very interesting character for me.
Truly. And the article says, this lets the readers see how Augie is affected by bullying and how he shows his feelings to others. So, we've got a useful verb here, affect. And it means to influence or have an effect on something. So, the weather will affect the election as more people will stay home if it storms. That means if it wasn't storming, the election wouldn't be affected. But since it is, it will change things.
Yeah, the number of people voting would be different. Okay, so now another reason why it's interesting that is because we get to look at some of the other characters, not just Augie as a victim, but we also see Jack, who went through this sort of interesting change where he does something bad and then has the realization that he's ashamed. So if you saw it from Augie's point of view, you maybe wouldn't get all the details about why Jack did what he did and how he really felt. But as we see in the article, so this way of writing, it also shows how some characters, like Jack, struggle to respond well to people with deformities. So we kind of see what's Jack feeling, what's Jack thinking when he first meets Augie or later, or maybe as other people kind of stop talking to him and kind of go through and see his take on this whole kind of story. And we see he struggles. And to struggle is to have a hard time doing a particular thing. Maybe you don't understand a class, so you say, oh, he's struggling in math at the moment. Maybe you just can't work out the solution to a personal problem. Oh, I'm struggling with this issue right now. Here's another example. When he first moved to Japan, Daniel struggled to fit into the culture because everything was so different.
Yeah. I definitely struggle with the weather in Taipei.
Right.
Especially as summer
I
proceeds.
love it.
You do?
I do. Bring it. Bring the heat. Bring the sunshine.
But the humidity now?
I don't like that, but I'll take that to
I see.
get the heat and sunshine.
Okay, I see.
If you came from Britain, you would understand.
I suppose so. I've come from California, so.
Yeah, you get great weather.
So I don't have to deal with humidity, but I still get sunshine and the
lucky.
warmth. Anyway.
Okay, so that's one way that this kind of multi-point of view structure of the novel helps, because we get to see how other characters are dealing with things.
Yeah. And by letting us see how some characters accept and welcome Augie, Palacio offers an important lesson, which we'll get to in a moment. But we have a useful word here, accept, another good verb. Accept is when you allow or recognize someone as belonging to a group. So in the article and in the story, it tells us about other characters like Jack, like Summer, accepting or claiming Augie as part of their group.
Yeah, like
not an outsider.
He's a new student, let's make him welcome kind of thing.
Exactly. So the example sentence we have for accept is, I don't think my coworkers accept me yet, since I only started at the company last month.
Okay, yeah, it can sometimes take a while before people sort of go, okay, yeah, this person can do the work, we can rely on them, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Not accepting someone doesn't mean that you're unfriendly to them. It just means they don't know you well enough to know if you're in the group or not in the group.
Exactly. And of course, Augie's facial deformities mean that some of the other teachers or students at his school will not accept them because he seems so different, whereas other characters are just like, yeah, just don't worry so much about what he looks like. He's just a 10-year-old. He's a new student. Let's treat him like everybody else. And this leads to the important lesson, which is don't judge a book by its cover. Now, this phrase, and in fact, we'd probably call it a proverb, this don't judge a book by its cover, is today's pocket phrase go. So let's take a short break and find out what this phrase means and how we can use it.
Pocket phrase go!
哎呦，花猫哦，最近去跟我的好友們貴夫人下午茶，哎呦，真正是看不出來齁，沒想到那個三口太太不只長得漂亮，花貓哦，最近聽說她還是物理博士呢，真的是啊，人不可貌相 ，Never judge a book by its cover。每本書呢，我們都有封面哦，有的呢只有書名，有的呢還畫上了這個帥哥美女哦。但是只看封面，你覺得這本書的內容你都了了嗎？如果呢只用封面就來評斷這本書好不好哦 ？Judge a book by its cover 就表示呢你只憑外表來評斷，也就是我們中文說的以貌取人啦。Never judge a book by its cover。遇到事情哦，遇到人，多認識多了解，千萬呢不要以貌取人啦。
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We've just taken a quick look at the phrase, the idiom, the proverb, the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. And of course, what it means is appearances are not as important as what's inside a person. Don't make hasty decisions and judgments based on first sight.
Yeah.
If you'd like to learn more, watch any of several Disney movies. Beauty and the Beast, a little bit Aladdin as well, but certainly Beauty and the Beast is like the entire story is don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, even The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
At the end, the witch makes herself beautiful, doesn't make her good.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there we go. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't just see something and make a decision about it. Get to know that thing.
Exactly. So, to continue in the article, Augie is a kind and loyal friend to the people who look beyond his appearance. So loyal is an adjective, and it means when you support someone, you're loyal to them. So we'll talk about loyal for things that have maybe like a deep connection to us, like loyal to friends or loyal to a country or an idea. But we can also use it in more fun contexts, like a loyal supporter of a sports team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's even just as serious as anything else.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
For some of us. But yeah, I guess the other thing with loyal is it's something that doesn't change, or certainly doesn't change easily without like a very strong reason. If you're loyal to someone and you stay that way, you don't just kind of change because you feel different one morning or for a small reason like that.
That's a very good point.
So we talk about if people look beyond Augie's appearance, he's a kind and loyal friend. Here we have the preposition beyond. Now, beyond, it means further than, and we can use it to mean just physical distance, like something is further away than something else, or in a less literal sense to mean kind of more deeply into the real true nature and the details of a thing. So if we're just talking about physical distance and where things are located, we could say something like, the town is beyond the hills and the forest. So it's on the other side of them. It's further than them. It's away over there. But if we're talking in the sort of more looking deeply sense, we could say schools should look beyond grades and make sure the students are learning things that will be useful for them or to them in life. So don't just go, oh, this student is good because they get all A's, this student is bad because they don't. Maybe they're just not good at tests. Look at what else they can do in class. Look at the other things they're learning. You know, how do they perform on other sorts of class activities? Don't just pay attention to test grades.
Yeah. And then the article continues by saying, aside from the way he looks, he is just a regular 10-year-old. So aside from is a phrase that can help us express the way something's different from what we expect. So with aside from, if we ignore the clause after it, the rest of the sentence is true. It's more clear when you have, or it's more useful when you have a lot of different things that are mostly similar, but just one thing makes them different.
Yeah.
So you can take away that one different thing.
Yeah, and we can use other phrases as well, like except for, like except for his appearance, Augie's like a normal 10-year-old, or besides his appearance. Yeah, apart from.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all about making kind of one exception.
Yes, an exception is the perfect way to say it.
Okay, so we also say, we kind of finish this article and this kind of theme point by saying, but in order for him, Augie, to have a regular childhood, people need to let him tell his own story. So, yeah, he's got a facial deformity. He looks different, but people have got to look past that and let him be Augie, be the sort of real person Augie who's inside him, and not let his entire life be to do with, the way he looks.
Yeah.
It's all to do with something else. So here we use today's grammar point. It's the use of in order to. And you can just replace this by simply using the word to. And it's used to show what's required for a situation to happen or for a particular action to take place. For example, you could say, in order to, or to get this job, you need to have 2 years' experience. Now you can start a sentence with to or in order to, then have the desired outcome and then the required action. For example, in order to pass this test, you'll have to study hard. Or you can put the requirement first, then the in order to or to phrase, and then the desired outcome. For example, you'll have to study hard in order to pass this test. So you can change around the order that the words and sentences and clauses appear in. The main point is that we're saying this is needed for this to happen.
Yeah, the requirement.
Yeah, exactly. So that is all of this article. We've talked about sort of how, what the meaning of this story is and what the author is trying to communicate. We'll now see
some of the special ways that she wrote it.
Yeah,
to show those messages.
We'll now look at our own experiences of this kind of thing in today's For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
Okay, so we used a good idiom in this article, a phrase, a proverb, don't judge a book by its cover. So the question for us is, have you ever wrongly judged a book by its cover? What did you learn from the experience?
Ooh, that's a good one. So it can kind of go both ways. Like you might judge something positively when actually it's negative. Or
Right.
you might judge something negatively and think, oh, this is terrible, and find that it's good.
Yes.
So the example I can think of, though, is a time when I judged someone positively because she was beautiful and she was a good conversationalist, and we had a lot of fun talking to each other. And so I thought, oh, maybe we could be a nice couple.
Cool.
And well, unfortunately, I let her appearance and her
Surface,
superficial
yeah.
demonstrations of her personality lead me astray. So I judged this book by its cover, and I was wrong because it turned out she was not very honest. And so it was just kind of like, oh, I see. That's right. People are sometimes misleading, or people are not... just because someone says something, you need to make sure that their actions match that. So this is the experience, like the lesson I took.
It's a good life experience to learn. Mine is a lot simpler.
Good.
Which was, get to Taipei. I smell stinky tofu. I think... Is there a problem with the drains here? There is no way I'm ever going to eat this thing.
Yeah.
It smells awful.
Yeah.
A few months in, I finally kind of like, all right, you know what? I'll try it just for the badge. Like, yep, tried stinky tofu. It's really
Because
good.
People will always ask you.
Yeah.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah, I love stinky tofu. It's great. So, yeah, I judged it purely on the smell rather than, the actual taste. And, yeah, sometimes I'll still smell it and think, oh, that's strong.
It's rough.
If you've ever been to Shankan, then, yeah.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, but once, it's so delicious. So, therefore, yeah, and there's a few other probably foods like that where I look at them and think, oh, that does not look very tasty, but then you actually try the thing and you go,
Yeah.
hey, like I've tried insects a few times, and
Food is a really good example of this idiom in action.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that you're like, oh, there's no way this can be good. This is a little hard-boiled egg, but it has a baby chick still inside of it.
Right.
How could it ever be good? And I haven't tried it. My father said it was delicious.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
apparently it's great.
Yeah, stuff like that. Or equally, you go, oh, this thing looks really tasty on the menu, on the picture. I'll
Yeah.
order it. Oh.
It has no flavor at all.
It's just very basic, pasta with not much sauce and not many things with it, something like that. So
Yeah.
there you go. So yeah, food is one way to approach this. All right, but that's all the time we have for now. Thanks for listening, everyone. For English for You, I'm Pat.
And I'm Kai.
We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wonder. Wonder was written in 2012 by R.J. Palacio. It's a touching book that contains important messages about strength and understanding. Palacio wanted readers to learn what life is like when people don't know how to behave toward you. This is the reason for the interesting way Palacio wrote Wonder. The story is told through the eyes of different characters, including Augie and Jack. This lets the reader see how Augie is affected by bullying and how he shows his feelings to others. It also shows how some characters, like Jack, struggle to respond well to people with deformities. By letting us see how some characters accept and welcome Augie, Palacio offers an important lesson. Don't judge a book by its cover. Augie is kind and a loyal friend to the people who look beyond his appearance. Aside from the way he looks, he is just a regular 10-year-old. But in order for him to have a regular childhood, people need to let him tell his own story.
Vocabulary Review.
Behave. I don't like eating at restaurants with Geraldine because she always behaves in a rude way toward servers. Character. My favorite character in this movie is a talking cat named Tom. Effect. The loud traffic outside her window affected Betty's sleep, and she felt very tired the next day. Struggle. Helen hadn't been listening in class, so she struggled to complete her homework that night. Accept. My sister's boyfriend was eager for everyone to accept him as part of the family. Beyond. There is a forest on this side of the mountains, but there is a huge empty desert beyond it.
智慧小補帖
Loyal.
以上节目是由活用空中美語製作，活用空中美語雜誌，請洽詢全國各大書店。如欲索取試聽教材，請來電02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上網查詢，網址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net